gonna bring them all up? Okay.
Okay, well.
Okay. Okay, thank everyone for joining us today. We're going to call our meeting to order. And this time we're going to have our Pastor Craig Slay give our invocation.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for the beauty of the day, the privilege that we have to assemble together. Father, help us not to take it for granted that we are still allowed in this place to participate in our government. Father, thank you for these gentlemen who have sacrificed and been willing to serve their communities. Thank you, Father, for our men and women who serve our fellow constituents in many ways. I thank you, Lord, for those who protect us, our first responders. I pray that you protect them, Lord, and bring them home safely to their families. And Lord, we thank you for our men and women in the military who are fighting for the cause of freedom all over the world. I pray for their protection. Now give us guidance and wisdom as we seek your face today. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Craig. We have a couple people on public comment. We're going to start first. Let my colleague to my left start it off.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring out and recognize Mr. Caraway and thank him for his service. And Mr. Slay is going to read a resolution for us from the board here in just a few minutes. But I want to take just a second and thank you. As I've gone throughout the reservoir and talked to people during times of my campaign and things like that, you're one of the most respected and well-loved persons at the reservoir. Your service over the years has been just unprecedented on your commitment and dedication to the reservoir community in Rankin County. And personally, before we do the recognition, I just want to take a second and thank you for your service and your years of dedication. You're definitely a historic figure to us, and we all look up to you and respect you very much. So thank you for your service on that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Slay.
Great. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, board members. Mr. Jim, would you please come forward? We want to take this opportunity to recognize, commend, yes, sir, stand right here with me. Commend and congratulate James W. Jim Caraway for 12 years of loyal service to the citizens of Rankin County as a member of the Board of Directors for the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District. I'm going to read this resolution that the board has authorized and signed. Whereas the Rankin County Board of Supervisors has consistently recognized our county's reservoir area as an integral and important part of what makes Rankin County a desirable place to live and raise a family. And whereas the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District, as the agency with primary oversight and responsibility of the Ross Barnett Reservoir area, has been a consistent partner in seeking to make the reservoir area a beautiful and inviting recreational asset for Rankin County. And whereas in recognizing the importance of the reservoir area to the county, the Rankin County Board of Supervisors has sought to place honorable and qualified individuals on the Board of Directors of the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District. And whereas one of these honorable and qualified individuals is Jim Caraway, who was appointed by the Rankin County Board of Supervisors as a member of PRV Board of Directors in April of 2004. And whereas Jim Caraway has faithfully served as a member of the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District Board of Directors for nearly 12 years, serving variously on multiple committees of that organization, and namely the Audit Committee, the Shoreline Development Committee, the Budget Finance Committee, and the Executive Committee, and also the Parks Policy Committee. Whereas over the course of Mr. Caraway's loyal and dedicated service, the PRV has improved and expanded the reservoir area as a destination for hunting, fishing, camping, and other recreational pursuits, and has thereby improved the quality of life for the citizens of Rankin County. Now, therefore, it's resolved that the Rankin County Board of Supervisors congratulates and commends Rankin County and Jim Caraway on 12 years of loyal, dedicated, and exemplary service to the citizens of Rankin County as a member of the Board of Directors for the PRV. And that's resolved this 12th day of February, 2016. Mr. Jim, this has been signed by the 5 supervisors along with our Chancery Clerk, Mr. Swales. We present that to you and we congratulate you on your service. We'd like for the family to come forward, please, everybody. And we want the family to be able to be photographed at the same time with Jim on this occasion. Thank y'all for coming today.
Hey, Craig, also could we do, I'd like to get Larry to come up also. I think Larry put him on the board originally. And also Mr. Mr. Winstead's back there also. If you would step up as chairman of the board for Pearl River Valley. Get the full crew up here. Yeah, and Mr. Sigmund,
Yep.
you step up, please.
Y'all better scoot down.
Let's go. I'll take a smile.
Really? Who told you that, Steve?
Yeah. No. My mother, who do you think? Smile, Kurt.
Thank you, board, for giving me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you.
Janice?
That's one of my prior bosses. That's Mr. Bingham.
Okay. If I need to call you husband or not. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Next, we have for public comment our county coroner, Mr. David Root.
Gentlemen,
Good morning.
I come before you this morning on a little small, brief financial issue. As you well know, I have not gotten a county transport vehicle at this time, so I'm having to depend on services of mortuary services and/or local funeral homes. I received 2 invoices from a local funeral home here, each one being an amount of $200 each for transporting someone to the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's office for an autopsy that I did authorize. In the beginning, both of these family members requested this funeral home, and I have since found out that the funeral home billed the family for what is termed in our industry as body removal. And then I also received these bills too. So when I called and questioned why I got the bill, and they also billed the family, they said that's just the way it was. And I didn't agree with that because I felt like it was being double billed. They were billing the family and turning around and billing the county, and I didn't agree with that. And it was my understanding that after apparently they seemed to be getting opposition from me on that, they went to a supervisor and he told them to present the bill. So I would like to pass this back to y'all, and if y'all authorize it, then it'll be paid, but I just don't agree with someone charging a family twice for that service.
I'm gonna have to agree with you.
And
Twice?
and I can break it down to even more minutely. One bill, the family requested the local funeral home, and before that service was conducted, they changed the funeral home to a different one. And he said, well, I didn't get that service. I said, well, send it to the funeral home that did get the service, that did bill the family. And they said it didn't work that way. And then the second one, and we're talking about picking somebody up and taking them 3 miles down the road, which I know that's a service, and I have to have that right now. But
How long before you get your vehicle?
it's going to production on the 22nd.
Wow.
And these bills, you know, you can see, each one of these bills were $200 each. And so you can see the savings of the county once we get that vehicle here, because that'll be a service. And I questioned them about that, and they said they had never issued an invoice prior to that, as the former coroner always transported. So, and I understand that, but what I don't understand is charging the family and charging the county.
Yeah.
And when I asked them why, when the family did use this particular funeral home, they said that they charged them from picking it up at the medical examiner's office and bringing it to the funeral home, but then they charged me from picking it up at the residence and taking it to the medical examiner's office. So
The same thing.
I just think they're trying to circumvent the system, and I just didn't agree with it, and I wasn't gonna sign off of it, so,
Really,
I hate putting this back on y'all, but, y'all are the majority vote.
what choice would we really have though? Because I don't want, you need to continue having some
Well, I called him
them
and asked
service,
him.
don't you?
Sir?
You need to continue to be able to have them as a service, don't you? until you get your transport vehicle?
I do, but, well, I could go around them, but, you know, I try to do things as expediently as possible so they don't, the family's not with their loved one any longer than
Right.
necessary.
Right.
But when I called and opposed to this, I told him I was gonna bring it before the board. He said, well, they'll either pay me or they won't. He said, if they don't, he said, I'll eat it. So,
Hope he's hungry.
so.
I'm not
Things
so
have
sure
worked.
we just take the bill and let our attorney write them a letter, asking them to justify their charges.
And I tried to work that balance out because I've been in situations where this very particular one has sent one person to a scene, and I had to perform duties for them. And I said, look, I'm helping you like you helped me. You know, we're a team. We're gonna try to do this together.
Right.
And he said, well, that's not the way it works. And I said, okay, so do I send you a bill because I don't work for your funeral home? He said, well, I'll pay it. So if we have to pay these, then I'd like for us to sit down, Mr. Slay, and figure out some type of billing process when I do work for them on the county's time. And I hate to come to that, but I don't like to see anybody trying to take advantage of the county.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do I leave this with
Yeah.
y'all, or?
Yeah.
Here's
All right.
this may be a temporary issue that we
Yeah.
have to get through, and probably all of this will be solved once David's got the transport vehicle in.
Right.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. But
When
we're
did-
looking at probably the middle of March, maybe 1st of April, before we get the vehicle in and
Wow.
get it marked out and equipped for such services.
We'll get through it.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
David, is there no place that you can lease one for a quarter or something to patch you through from right now until your vehicle's ready?
The answer to that question is yes, there is a place, but whether somebody would lease me a vehicle to put remains in it, to put a body in there, I don't know that anybody would do that, because they're gonna have to turn around, and I'm sure they would have to.
I mean, I was just like another funeral home that had an extra one or something that we,
They don't have extra, and actually, a different billing, when they were gonna help us in the beginning, they started invoicing us straight off, and I called them and said, hey, what about our conversation? They said, well, it's all about the almighty green dollar. So, nothing's free anymore, but, you know, I'm deferring this to the board, because it's just something I didn't agree with. And this is the first thing that I didn't agree with. Everything else I'm handling.
Hey, man.
We don't have any, we don't have anything, Sheriff, or anything that's any kind of, that's a surplus or something we can.
Right.
And the pickups that we had to deal with too short for the stretcher to fit in,
Mm.
Right.
Okay.
And there are some corners across the state that uses pickups, but I refuse to do that, out of respect. I will not do that to anybody. So,
Could it not be fitted with like something though, like pickup that could be fitted, suitable in the, something that would look a little more pleasing as far as in for transport?
It could be, and that's what we're doing with the one that's been ordered. We're having customized shells built for
Okay.
it to have it completely enclosed. It's gonna actually look like a Suburban coming down
Okay.
the road. And it
Yeah,
won't
that's
have any
kinda-
windows or anything in it for
Yeah,
anybody.
that's what
to
I was
see.
thinking, yeah.
And I don't
Okay.
know if they have it. Yes, sir, those things are available. Just, you
Okay.
want to go to that expense for
Right, for a few,
short
for a month,
period, right.
6 weeks, yeah. About probably 2 months, about 2 months, yeah.
I would say max.
Mhm.
Murphy's Law, if it can happen, it probably would.
Okay.
All right,
Hey, thanks, Dave.
all right, so y'all have a good day.
Moving on down our agenda, old business. We have
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Morrison. Second by Mr. Morrow to approve February 1 minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Consent agenda, I believe Ms. Laura has one item to add to the
I do.
consent.
And that is attending a training for Brad Smith. It's the National Computer Forensic Institute, and it will be February the 28th through March the 4th, and all expenses are paid.
All right.
I make a motion we add it to the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrow, second by,
Mr. Cross.
Yeah, Mr. Cross,
Or you
yeah.
can call me Daniel if you like, whatever you like. Hey, you, the guy to my left.
second by Mr. Cross. All in favor say aye. Aye. Let's have it. Have a motion to approve consent.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion?
Yeah, I guess real quick. I noticed we got a hiree on community development. Is that filling a spot or is that a new spot?
It's replacing Michelle at this town hall,
Okay, she retired,
she.
or anyway, no longer, okay. Okay,
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Who's gonna fill in for Judy?
huh, who's gonna fill in for John?
Oh, excuse me, I was getting,
Okay.
I was getting,
You're
you
filling
made
in
the
for-
motion there.
Okay,
They
you're
asked
Judy.
that I would fill in for both Judy and
Okay.
John this
Alright.
morning. So,
They added
And they-
to the agenda, they approved it, and then they.
Bob and Daniel on the ad.
Yeah, we
Bob and
approved,
Daniel
yeah.
on the approval.
okay. For Judy Fortenberry, tax collector, she has one item, and that is request to void 2013 tax sale and refund any purchaser for parcel number G12-3, PIN number 2828 for property that matured to the state.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, the items under John Sullivan, tax assessor. First one is petition for change of assessments on 2015 real and personal property.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Morrison,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
And the next item is petition to adjust 2015 homestead exemption supplemental roll.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Morrison,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Ms. Herring.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have a bid opening this morning for precast bridge components. We received one bid from Foley Products. It's for the various sizes, parts for bridges, guardrails, abutments, and all hardware. Since we received one sole bid, I recommend that this be awarded to Foley Products.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrow to award this bid.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Mr. Parker.
Is this the one? Nice.
Oh, all right.
Thank you, sir. First item that I have on the agenda is on the state aid project, SAP-6116M. Recommending approval of a subcontract for striping to Traffic Control Products, Inc. And this subcontract, this is just a paper issue. It's already been approved. This doesn't involve any additional monies because that project is basically complete now. This is just a matter of getting a document that can go in the state aid files. So I recommend approval of that subcontract.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrison,
Second.
second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you. Next item that I have on the agenda is pertaining, I've got it labeled there as federal projects. About 4 years ago, or a little longer, Mr. Stringer was the county administrator before Laura, and an application was made on 2 projects for funding, and we had started on the design. On those projects, you have to get them up to what they refer to as field review before you can really be considered. And up to field review includes environmental. So we had started. All right, then we found out that they have a cutoff line, and this comes about every 4 years. also. They have a cutoff line. All right, there was one project in Madison County, and then these two Rankin County projects were next in line. So we're of the opinion from some conversations that if we get these in line, ready for field review, there's a good possibility that both of these projects will be funded. If we don't, then the likelihood will go away. Probably forget about federal funding on them. So that's kind of the situation that we're in. One of the projects is on Spillway Road, and it is adding an additional lane, a turn lane, on the westbound side going toward Old Fannin Road, where we have a major traffic backup because it's a single lane going into multiple lanes, and when they're pulling over to turn or something, it ends up blocking the traffic on back to the east. So that's what one of the projects is. The other project is on North Shore Parkway there at Spillway. That is adding a turn lane. If you're coming south on North Shore, it's adding a turn lane to turn on the Spillway Road. And those of you that have been around some know the problems that we have there and have had. So anyway, those are the two federal projects. Now, the county has to bear all the expense up until the project is funded. When the project is funded, then it becomes what they refer to as an 80-20 project. 80% of the cost of construction is federal dollars, and 20% of that cost is county dollars. In all reality, 80-20 is a term used, but in all reality, it's probably a 70-30 or something because of the money that the county has to spend up front that the federal government does not participate in getting it up to the construction phase. So that's where we are. The two projects is the one on North Shore is the construction cost is $1 million, our estimate, and that can change actually, but our estimate is $1,048,015. On the Spillway Road improvements, the estimate there is $721,944. It's less involved there. But that's the construction cost. And then that would be, if the projects are awarded and you move ahead, then the federal government would pay 80% of that construction cost, and Rankin County would pay 20% of that construction cost. Now, to get these projects to that field review stage, and here again we're guessing because we have done some work on both of them, and the work just came to a halt when it was seen that the projects weren't going to get funded in that round. We're probably talking about $15,000 to $20,000 in engineering on each project to get it to that field review stage. And that's the reason I'm here today, because if you're going to do it, it needs to be done, because you need to get in line before the late summer or early fall for funding through the MPO. So that's where we are. I'm just asking for y'all to make a decision and tell us what direction to go in.
So is one of the Madison projects gonna roll off?
Do not know. Do not know.
Well, where do you anticipate the money to come from? I mean, somebody's project has to go away, right?
Well, yes, but that doesn't mean all the money goes away. You know, there may be 2 or 3 or 4 projects funded. That doesn't mean that just one project will be funded. Just
Right.
like if the cut line falls in there, and it might be that only one of these would be funded, and you'd have to wait till the next round to get in line for it.
But if we're not prepared,
You're out the
prepared and
window.
ready, then we're not gonna,
Oh, you won't be
we won't even
considered.
be considered. That's
No, I was just asking
Yeah.
where the money's coming
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
right.
Is there, you know,
On our side.
yeah. No,
Oh,
I mean, like,
no.
how are we gonna get this windfall, you know? Did somebody's project get kicked out because of time, they didn't get it done in a timely manner?
There are
Or-
some that were discussed at the last meeting, but Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday when we were there, that, because they alerted some, I guess, made them aware Wasn't that the way you put it?
Yeah, had a deadline coming up.
Yes.
They
Right.
needed to get their ducks lined up.
Some of the
quickly.
deadline was coming up.
Get lined up
Yeah,
and get
that
out.
made them aware. Yeah.
What's the deadline? I mean,
It was 29th, end of the month, they had to get it together. It was 2 Hines County projects, I believe, and they were working hard to try to get everybody together, but you won't know until the end of the month whether or not that gets come together.
And then, it really wasn't discussed about the Madison ones. There was some, so I'm not sure how they
I don't know that.
lay.
I was just curious how that whole deal was gonna shake out since their engineer's no longer on the project.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
actually, it was a little mumbling around the table questioning that also,
Okay.
so. I guess
Well, we
we'll
need to
see.
get it ready to go, so we would be in line.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think-
If you do that, you get it ready. If you don't get funded this time,
Yeah,
put it right back up the next round. Of course, that's 3 or 4 years down the road.
Yeah.
but still, that's done, ready. I think we need to do that. That's what happens so many times. Something comes available, and you don't have anything ready, so you don't even get
That's
it ready.
correct.
the deadline's the 29th to have people.
No, not on
that.
this, no.
No.
No, that's a different deadline altogether.
But
On this, we just need to complete it so when the time comes
yeah,
later on, Rankin County can say, we're ready for field review.
And this project fits your criteria
yeah.
of where does money be.
Yes.
And I guess my only thing is that I didn't know if we need to take action today, or could this be tabled to the next meeting to bring up at that point there? I just like to do some research on it, just to follow up on it. Is this something that could be tabled, or you think it needs to
No.
act today? I mean,
I don't think it needs to be tabled. It's not research. I mean,
I haven't done any research on it, I guess is my point. I mean, I'd like to read about it and study up on it a little
Whatever.
bit for the next
That's
meeting.
y'all's call.
But I guess, Bob, that's what I'm saying. Is there a deadline by the end of the month that this has got to be? We got to make an action
Not
today?
ours, no. I mean,
Is
that's
there a
the-
major
that's the
issue
Hines-
between acting today and acting March
That's the
3rd?
Hines County project. Buster's wanting, I think, just approval to get direction to keep moving this process forward, so that we are ready to go to that when we let the MP folks know that.
That's
if it
correct.
comes-
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Bid
it
on it.
comes available, then we don't have to say, well, we still got to do a little preliminary stuff.
Mr. Parker, you said that you began work back when we had
About
different,
4 years ago, yes.
the work that you did at that time, is that, you can't use that
Oh,
anymore?
yes, sir, we will use it. Yes, sir, it's like those numbers I
So
gave,
the
those
numbers-
estimates a while ago was to complete that. Because none of the data,
We got $20,000 more work on each project.
possibly, I think that's
How
on the
much
high
have we
side.
spent to this point?
I cannot tell you that, I don't have that number with me. But what you have spent, the data that covered is still available, we still have it, yeah. Nothing's changed.
Okay.
So with the vote today, where does it put you? I mean, if we move forward with this thing, your next,
If you move forward, then we're gonna go ahead and get both of these projects ready for field review. Complete the design on it and get the environmental done. And then that will have you ready for field review and meeting their requirements. Then you wait to see if you get funded.
and then the total here would be roughly somewhere between 15 to 20,000 of additional engineering fees to get both projects together, ready to roll.
No, that's per project.
Per project.
Per project. And I think that's on the high side.
And if we're not successful this go around, this information is still doable and good for us to use in the next cycle.
Next time,
when it
that's
comes
correct.
up again.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The area's just gonna continue to grow out there, traffic's just gonna continue to grow. Here's an opportunity for us to pick up some federal funding. So I'd like to make a motion that we continue on with this project and give Mr. Parker and his group the green light.
Okay, we have
I'll
a motion
second.
by Mr. Morrow to move forward, second by Mr. Morrison. Any more discussion?
Yeah, and I guess the only thing, I guess Bob's point was that this stuff can be carried over to the next cycle of it all. So
Every 4 years.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you won't lose anything.
No. I just didn't want.
When is the next field review? You're saying we put
For
this,
field review, we're anticipating late summer, early fall, knowing at that time whether Rankin County projects will be funded or not.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay. Thank you. The third and last item that I have was on our Star Road Bridge replacement. I'm recommending approval of pay request number 6 to Dozer LLC in the amount of $89,160.80 and requesting authority to issue that check.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Slade?
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
First item under my section is a public hearing on the Larry Dupree conditional use permit at 4085 Highway 18 in District 3. We'll open that public hearing. Mr. Dupree is seeking a conditional use permit to operate a car lot at 4085 Highway 18. It's a 2.50 acre tract zoned A1. There's a home and a shop building on the property presently. He plans to use the shop as an office. Cars placed for sale will be parked along Highway 18 on a 50 by 100 foot section of this property. The maximum number of vehicles placed for sale at any given time is 10. The C2 commercial uses are listed as a conditional use in the A1 district. So we are here today seeking a conditional use permit. So that hearing is open. I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Larry Dupree conditional use permit? Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. As you come forward, we need you to state your name and address.
My name's Carolyn Palmer at 4149 Highway 18. Our family's main concern is when all of a sudden we're getting conditional C2 uses around our area. I'm not opposed to businesses, we're not opposed to things coming up, but it's just, we're been agricultural and farms around there. Our concern is the way the C2 conditional uses are being approved around us and what the future, what this brings for our future and what the planning, I know y'all are working on a plan, comprehensive plan, what that's gonna bring. And that's our main concern. I understand it's a conditional use. If you are gonna do a conditional use, keep it at the minimum, but we ask that it looks nice. We still oppose it, but if we have to, if y'all do pass it, that it looks nice and not just parked everywhere. I have another concern. When you drive by, when y'all put your signs out for public hearings, if you could put them closer. I did not see that sign until 3 days ago because the way the trucks were parked, you know, you don't get on it until you're right there. So you don't see it. So that may be part of the, you know, strategy. I don't know, but we need to have signs a little closer. Our family has just noticed that lately. On one side of us, there was a conditional use. There's an automotive shop now, and then you're asking for a used car lot, and we really are opposed to all of this. Just wanted to state mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms.
Thank you,
Palmer,
Carolyn.
when you said that there was trucks blocking the view of this sign,
Yeah, you
whose
couldn't-
trucks?
They were on that land, on the property owner's land. I would assume, I mean, it's just how they had them parked. You don't, I mean, when I went by this today, you can, if you look, there's a little gap now, but you don't see it. And that's why I said if the signs are in front, we would see it, known this sooner. But I don't know how many people really actually even saw this sign. I don't know. You're just driving and you don't really see it unless you happen to look right in this.
How far do you live from?
As the country goes 3 driveways, not very far.
3 driveways?
Yeah.
About a half mile.
You know,
quarters of a
I mean,
mile,
you know, if you're
Right, I understand.
part, you know, there's his house, which was the Christie's, and then there's the automotive shop
You go by there
every day. But the
And you
concern
saw
is
the
people are
sign.
coming all the way down. There's a lot of traffic on 18. If y'all start putting a lot of used car lots and everything up there, then
My
it's going to
concern
deter
is the
from that.
obstruction of the sign that's supposed to be a public
Yeah.
notice. If it wasn't a public notice, then it didn't do its job.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
it needs to go in front of trucks, not in the back of them.
More
Or in
people
front of,
saw it.
or in the front of whatever
I
you're
got a
doing it
call,
for.
too.
It needs to go closer to the road so people can see
I
them.
think we also send letters to the adjacent landowners.
I didn't get one. No.
Okay.
I know that none of our family, yeah. I just wanted to be on record to voice our concerns
Right.
for our families. You know, thank you.
Thank you.
Take this with you. Guys, at this point, I'd just interject to remind our folks that we have on the line.
I know, I just saw that.
Yeah, so we've got little cards that lets our constituents know where to go on our website to complete the survey on our comprehensive plan. People can actually put input into the development of
Right.
the comprehensive plan. So I'm giving Ms. Palmer one to be able to go on the website and participate in that. We have other cards that we can get to anybody that else.
I appreciate it. I just saw that. You know, and that's another thing. You don't see this on your public hearings on your website. You don't really list them. So it might be a suggestion or something to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you don't want people up here to fuss, but
Well, no, I mean,
you know, it's just
No, that's not the case at all.
you know.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna, if it's okay, you guys set these cards over here where folks in the audience can take a card with them if they want to participate in our survey. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the Larry Dupree conditional use request? Anyone? Renee has put together a list of conditions. If it's okay, I would quickly go over those with you. As was said in the opening remarks about this conditional use request, there would be a limit on the number of vehicles that could be offered for sale at any one time to 10. The conditional use would be approved, but only for Mr. Dupree's use. It would not be transferable or assignable to any third party. Only vehicle sales would be allowed. Nothing else could be sold at this location, just vehicle sales. And no mechanic work would be allowed to take place on site. So any mechanic work would have to be done somewhere else. Okay, so those were the conditions that are being proposed. If there are others, yes.
What's the distance from this one, from the last one that came up that we turned down?
That's on Hebron Hill. The last one you, I think, turned down was on Hebron Hill. This is as you get closer, about a mile and a half on down the road. You've already got a conditional use there. Who's got the body shop there? Or
It's closer to Shell Road.
it's further
Okay,
down.
all
The
right.
one you're talking about was Mr. Dupree, that was son. You have the bigger track up on
Okay,
Hebron Hill
all right.
that y'all declined to move on. But this is further down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we had to move somewhere else to try to get some cars. That's our business. That's our business. We've been in for 50 years.
This lady here lives probably 3 or 4 miles down the road.
If I may, if
Well,
you'll
just a moment,
give your
just-
name and address, please, thank you.
My name is Larry Dupree. I live at 40, just before you get to Shell Road on Highway 18.
Craig.
But anyway, we wanted a car lot on top of Hebron Hill, which I was in the car business back in the 60s there. My son owns the property, 20 and a half acres. And we had about 50 people here wanted to oppose it on account of, we was gonna put a scrap yard or junk yard or something in behind the property, which was not true. It was not true. Why would I want a garbage pit behind a used car lot? It would smell so bad it'd be unreal. So y'all turned it down, which was not right. I've been in Rankin County all my life. I was born at the old Rankin General Hospital and everything, and I know just about everybody, all the Mars. I've been knowing them all my life. I used to do dirt work for them. I worked at the post office for 21 years in Jackson. And I tried to do right, but that car lot on Hebron Hill wouldn't affect nobody. And the people y'all had up here was trying to hurt me. We have been friends for 60 or 70 years. I'm the one got them to buy a house on top of Hebron Hill. Now I'm wanting a car lot down here, and this lady's opposed me not wanting a car lot down there. I have been in the car business since 1960. And I appreciate y'all, any help y'all can do me. I'm 79 years old, and I would love to work another 10 or 12 years if my health will hold up. Thank you.
Okay.
Have we had any problems with the body shop next to it, Renee, as far as issues or not living up to their conditional uses or Any complaints? I mean, I think we got a complaint from the lady across the street, Miss Anderson, is that her name? Did she call you? And indicated it was an eyesore. I mean, I never have gotten that impact. Nobody's ever called me and told me it was an eyesore, but, so I think you made the comment earlier, he does a pretty good job of keeping his cars situated and organized or whatever, where it may be.
Yes, sir. As long as the numbers limited, I think. She had she listed traffic safety issues, which we haven't really seen a problem with.
Might want to pull that mic up.
We haven't seen evidence of any safety issues there, and we haven't gotten any complaints on the mechanic shop next door.
Anybody that called you, did they yay, nay, or just asking about it, or?
I think the same person said something to me, said something to you the other day. CMPD.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
All right.
You've heard the conditions. If I need to go over those again, let me know.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, the conditions are no more than 10 vehicles for sale at any given time. The conditional use is for Mr. Dupree only, cannot be transferred or assigned to any third party. Only vehicle sales are allowed. No other items can be offered for sale at this location, and no mechanic work can take place on site. Those would be the conditions.
Is it closed?
We'll close that public hearing, and it'd be
All right.
appropriate to take action.
Do I have a motion one way or another on this action?
I make a motion, we move it based upon the conditional uses Mr. Slay has laid out for the uses of conditional use.
Motion by Mr. Morrow to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. Next item under my section, Mr. President, is a public hearing on the Dalvin Doc Davis conditional use permit 4068 Highway 80 District 4. Mr. Doc Davis is seeking a conditional use permit to build a metal building with living quarters on the property located at 4068 Highway 80. Mr. Davis wants to see if he can be approved for the use before he actually purchases the 10-acre tract. The property is currently zoned RE1. At this time, we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to the Doc Davis conditional use permit. Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here. We'll close that public hearing. At this time, it'd be appropriate to take action.
I move that we accept it.
Motion by Mr. Gaines to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cross. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
The next item under my section, Mr. President, is a public hearing on the Misty Amos conditional use permit, 274 Foster Road, District 1 property. Ms. Amos is seeking a conditional use permit to place a 2016 32 by 80 manufactured home on property located at 274 Foster Road. It's a 120-acre parcel of family land zoned RE1A. This will be the fourth dwelling on the property. It's District 1 property. We'll open that public hearing. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition to the Misty Amos conditional use permit. Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak in opposition. We'll close that public hearing and be appropriate to take action.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Morrison to approve, second by Mr. Morrow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
This next item under my section is the continuation of the Old Fannin Road Store and Lock LLC nuisance property hearing. That's a District 2 parcel. So we'll open that hearing, reopen that hearing. That was continued, and I'll ask Ms. Renee to give us an update on that.
We contacted the owner to be here, and he has a family member with a health issue, and he was asking if it could be continued to a later date, possibly the work session on 3/3. He said he'll be glad to be here, but, you know, he just needs some additional time to get his mother situated.
That would be y'all's prerogative. So
Well,
whether or not
yeah,
we
I think he
continue
needs
it
to
to
be
the
here.
third.
I agree. I'm good with it. Yeah.
We'll table it to the third.
So what we want to do is just to make sure that, is there anyone here that was to speak today that wanted to address the board about this matter with the Old Fannin Store and Lock? Anyone here? For the record, we will simply notate that the board is considering a continuation, and so for the purpose of the continuance, it's important that anybody who is wanting to participate is made aware on the record that we are continuing it to a date certain. So if the board is going to do that on the 3rd, we want to make sure that if we know of anyone who is wanting to participate, we need to try to get word to them as best we can. Okay? We would need a motion to continue
I'll
that
make a
hearing.
motion, we continue.
I wasn't sure if we did or not. Motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Gaines to continue. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Mr. President, item E is a discussion and potential action on a request for proposal for ambulance service. As you guys know, at the last board meeting, we discussed the county's current ambulance contract, the provision within that contract that allows for a review of the contract upon a county general election, which of course has occurred. The decision was made to consider moving forward with placing our current provider on notice of the board's intention to seek proposals on alternate ambulance or our own ambulance service under a separate contract. That notification has been prepared. We got word before that was sent out that a sister county had placed the same provider who provides ambulance service for that county on notice of its intent to go out for RFP, and the response that they got was a notification back from the provider that they could count on not having ambulance service within 90 days. And because of that, I made a command decision at that point to not send out our notification letter until such time as we got back in front of you guys to let y'all decide where we are in the RFP process. And in light of the fact that we're likely to get a similar letter from our provider, making sure that you guys were in a position to be able to move within that 90-day time frame. And so that's where we stand today. We're ready to talk about RFPs. We're ready to talk about component parts. I know that there's some folks here that may want to mention things to you about the RFP process, and so we would, I would simply defer to the board president, tell us how we're going to go through this discussion.
Thanks.
Craig, could you, I'm not clear, you said that this sister county got a letter, said they would be without ambulance service within 90 days.
Well,
That could be tomorrow.
No, actually at the point of 90 days. They were giving them 90 days notice.
Okay.
My apologies, I didn't clarify that. 90 days notice.
So did you by any chance come up with a summary of the differences?
Well, no, sir, not a summary, but I met between 6 of us.
All right.
My question would be, if I'm gonna jump, and maybe Daniel will jump out, it looks like to me that the biggest thing is just how you got zone 1 and zone 2 in your proposal, and I think what Bob presented and his group presented, and Brian, you got 5 zones. So I guess that's the biggest thing we need to kind of pull together and decide if 5 zones is better or just the 2 zones are better. I mean, Brian or somebody, I don't know, that's my question.
If I may, to keep sort of a big picture perspective, Bob, much of what we discussed today with respect to putting an RFP together requires some sort of understanding. At some point, there's going to have to be a meeting of the minds about which of the municipalities want to be a part of this ultimate solution. I'm not suggesting that they have to be. I'm suggesting that we need to know whether there is an intention to be or not. Because the RFP needs to disclose as best we can. It needs to disclose to that potential service provider what is the area they're going to be covering. There's a lot of moving parts in this thing. Brian Grantham, EOC Emergency Services Director, and Bob Wedgeworth, the EOC's overall directors here, and these guys can give us a little bit of information to the extent y'all want to hear from them. They can give us some information about the fire services side of this RFP, the one document that has the red writing on it that you've got there. That is the product of the fire chiefs and our EOC guys.
Which we had about a 3-hour meeting the other night, and it was great input from chiefs all over the county. I'm going to thank them. I wish more of them were here today.
All right, so I believe y'all have a copy of both RFPs there, and like you said, some of the differences, whatever, between the two, the different districts, and then some of the percentages and times between the two. Be happy to work with whomever, and we can come to a meeting there.
How are we going to address keeping City of Brandon and the City of Pearl involved in this contract when they've got their contracts out there in those times that they want in relationship to the times that we're proposing for our contract?
Well, it's my understanding that whenever they created their own EMS district away from the county, that, you know, it's totally up to their mayor and board if they want to discontinue their own EMS district and join the county again, or stay the same. And just from in talking with the different chiefs and everything, they want to keep control of their own services. So they have been excluded from our RFPs that we have suggested. I would like to make note that in the RFP, in both RFPs that you have in front of you, Flowwood was considered in that, and I have spoken with some of the people over there, and they are most likely going to their own EMS district as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you're looking at no Flowwood, no Brandon, no Pearl?
No, hang on a second, though.
Yeah, I talked to the mayor yesterday. He said they've not decided to do anything. Actually, I thought they were going to be here today, but they're not, so.
I think that's something we gotta have to know for sure on, or maybe they're waiting to just see what we come up with and then they'll decide. I don't know.
Yeah, the one thing I don't want to have in the whole thing is if we can avoid it, I don't want two county contracts. I don't want an issue to where the county needs an ambulance and the city of Brandon has an ambulance and they don't want to cross city limit lines. I want one common contract that we're all playing together, basically. Right. You know, I just don't want a turf battle on contract issues. So, to me, the RFP should go out as a full county-wide service, providing it for Brandon, Pearl, Flowwood, Richland, everybody. And if they choose to opt out on their own, they choose to opt out on their own. But when we put out the general RFP, in my opinion, it should go out for the entire county, covering all cities, all districts, everything that's under our blanket of Rankin County. I just don't want two contracts to put walls up on us.
Well, that's correct, but I mean, that's where I think I agree with you. I wish we could, but that could create a problem if they don't step up and say, yes, we're willing to do that. It's kind of hard for them to give a quote if all of a sudden we come in, then we find out, oh, but we're not going to get these cities 33. Yeah. You know, and that's their choice. I really wish we could get some maybe commitment that if I don't know how you're going to do it.
Well, you're right.
Maybe.
And I guess the city's thoughts are that they hadn't been happy with the way the county's proceeded and they wanted better coverage for their areas, which is why they proceeded that route. So I know they're each independent areas, but I guess looking at the proposal side of this thing, when we put it out, again, we're not signing a contract to anything now. We're just putting this out and say, see what we can get. And if we put this out there, the cities then can come back and sign us an interlocal agreement, Craig, at that point, and say, we agree with the RFP that's coming into the county and we're on board.
Right.
If they don't come back,
then we'll have to renegotiate.
Absolutely right.
Right. I mean,
the RFP goes out as a blanket across everything. Let's see. You're fishing. You're seeing what we get, and then we act from that point.
Would that affect us negatively on the timeline, though?
But could possibly, which gets us back to where we were with what we know from AMR's history, from their recent behavior as it relates to a sister county. If I may, just a quick history lesson on sort of how we got here. I think it's important to keep in mind because it plays into what we do from now on and how we address this when we get to the contract stage. One of the reasons why it was possible for a Brandon or a Pearl or a Flowwood to move away and create their own EMS district is because they were never asked to be signatories on our current contract. Those municipalities were not contractually obligated under the ambulance.
They had no skin in the game.
They didn't. Now, obviously, they were very active in participating with us in the operation of the ambulance service. We all know that, but they were free to move in their own direction. At some point, if there is going to be a contract that avoids the walls, those municipalities that are going to participate will have to be signatories on the county's contract.
Yep. And again, and that's the point of putting out a blanket RFP covering everybody. And then once we get that back, they can come in and figure out whether they want to be a part of the game. And if they don't want to be a part of the game, we have to go off RFPs again, eliminating this specific spot.
Can you repeat that one more time? The contract we signed, you're saying that whatever municipalities are going to participate must sign?
They need to join in the contract. They need to be contractually obligated to it, just like the county.
To say they're staying with us and not going to separate out.
And again, that's just simply to create a situation where we don't get right back into this again.
So what about the cities that already have or may go to their own EMS district?
They'll have to make a decision, I think, in this process, that if they're going to participate with the county ambulance service, they're going to have to come to the table at the contract stage and join us at that point. If they decide that they would prefer to have their own service, then we can't very well obligate our provider to provide that service if they're not willing to join the contract.
Which is the same situation we're in right now. You know, we've had breakout, so our current system may not be meeting exactly the areas they're supposed to be meeting because we have breakouts of those cities. This keeps us all together.
Yeah, but
and if it doesn't, then we go back out for another contract.
In reality, though, I mean,
what prevents us from doing 2 RFPs at the same time in a different scenario? We have one what Daniel wants to go with, and the other one that we take Brandon, Pearl, and Flowood, or whoever wants to pull them out. And that way we.
I think what we do is in our RFP, it's just a little bit of extra massaging to the RFP, a little bit of extra length in it, which is my gift, apparently. You would identify and list those municipalities that would be served in the county, who could be served in the county, and you tell your responders to assume in all of their responses, assume participation, however you want to assume it, among those municipalities to include none of them participating. In other words, service only to the unincorporated area of the county. So that would be one cost associated with their response. And then include Florence, this number, include Brandon, this number, include Pearl, this number, etc. Let them respond with assumptions about which of those municipalities might actually participate.
And you can do that, but what you're creating when you do that, you're creating the opportunity to put multiple ambulance services in the county. And then you've got somebody that has a wreck just north of the city of Brandon, and the ambulance won't come across the city limits because the other one's out of service or out of pocket. You got multiple calls. Now saying that, knowing the fire chief in the city of Brandon, what's he going to do? He's going to send the ambulance outside the city limits of Brandon to take care of him because Wages is a top-notch guy. But my point is, we're creating those walls again. And to me, my suggestion is to go out with the blanket coverage on the front end, see what we get back offer-wise, see if the cities are willing to go along with the original county-wide ambulance service, which I believe, after talking to most of the fire chiefs in the county, that we want one ambulance service. Obviously, we want good response times. We want quality care. We want equipment and supplies to be able to offset. So I get all that. But one service, I think, is the best route to take that. Whichever service that is, doesn't matter. But having us on the same page, if we come back and we get a proposal and the city of Brandon says, I don't like the route the county's going, they're not going to sign an interlocal agreement and they're not going to join in on our contract, they're going to do their own thing, then sure, we can go back to RFPs. Because that changes the options of what you're going to get.
Educate me on this,
yeah.
Daniel, or whoever. If we put this out in a blanket, aren't we letting the, I guess, end-use contractor, whoever it would be, do a lot of the negotiating for us to where, because they're going to be going to these cities saying, hey, we got a contract and you're with us now,
Sure.
and it would be beneficial to both of us if we do this.
Well, the cities do hold us hostage to a certain point right now, the way we're set up, because they can still pick and choose the ambulance services that they want under their own EMS districts.
But hopefully, this would put a little more pressure even on them to have the same, provider, because I mean it benefit
One provider in the county helps everybody. Everybody
right.
gets
And
helped by that.
I think that,
I think that goes without question. That's a common, sure, that one provider is what we hope we have, but if we can go out with a blanket, but if we go out with a blanket and then it doesn't work out, I mean, we're going to be on a timeline possibly here with a 90-day deal. So then we got to start over again. I would hope the cities and we'd all be one blanket deal. I would hope that to be, but I got a gut feeling that's not going to happen.
I would say it's probably going to be one that says no, but within a year or two, that one is going to come aboard because they're going to see it's so much more cost effective to be together. But what is our alternative? If we don't do a blanket, you're talking about doing these line item, I mean, that'd be so confusing and you'd have.
It could be.
It'd be a lot to that. I
Let
reckon
me
that's
ask a quick question though, Daniel. If we're going to do that, then should we not? I can't recall, Terry. What's the contractual? I mean, in the proposal here, are we meeting Brandon and Pearl's contractual timelines in your proposal? I mean, that's got to be in there.
Very close.
I mean, it's got to be for the two cities to get on board. Yeah. It's got to be the same thing they got now.
And I'm going to tell you, if Chief Wages will speak a second, do you anything you want to add on this, Chief?
Well, right now, we're in a 2-year commitment with Halford.
Chief, you will.
Come forward.
Gotta get you on the mic.
Okay, we're in a 2-year commitment with Halford to provide service for the city of Brandon, and we all know how this has come about. But what I'd like to say is that we function county-wide with separate systems all the time. We do it in fire, law enforcement. There's a system and there's a way to make it work. I understand the concern of a county-wide system. However, the problem we've had in the past is the reason we're trying to maintain control of our ambulance service within the city of Brandon. And right now, we only require one truck in the city. And if the county does a contract, that one truck is still going to be in the city of Brandon because logistically, that's where it would need to be, regardless of who has a contract. Now, we're going to provide mutual response outside, just like Daniel said, outside the city limits. I mean, if we get a call, we're going. And then another ambulance is going to come in, possibly, say, for example, a county ambulance may come into Brandon and stand by in Brandon till Brandon's ambulance gets back into the city and takes back over that spot. So you see kind of how we can make it work. I think we're overthinking it, honestly.
Yes.
Now, I understand the whole contract concept, but we're in a 2-year contract with Pafford right now.
And when does it expire?
2 years.
I mean, when? What is the date?
Oh, well, February.
Well, they just started it, right?
No, what would it be, 16, 18?
Okay, you start, okay.
You know, as you recall, we just renewed the contract because, what was it, February the 1st of 15.
Let me add just a little bit of meat to what Chief Wages just said. It's this. He's saying the way that the ambulance service can be provided in the same manner as countywide, even though the municipalities have their separate contracts, meaning they would not be signatories on the county's contract. You understand that? He's saying we'll hold what we got. We'll keep on with our contract. County can have a separate contract. How those get married together is not through the contracts. It's through a separate agreement between Brandon and the county.
Well, that was my question. How are we going to go and have them that are not signing, so that could work the same with Pearl, Brandon, possibly even Flowood?
Yes.
So we just need to go out for bid for everything other than those 3 locations.
You can do, well, to the extent that we feel real confident that we know what the lay of the land is.
Well, for sure 2 of them. And
Okay.
possibly 3. He's on his way here now, so.
Well, my concern would be that we go out with a formal RFP and we include a number of municipalities and we find out 20 days into the process, while we're waiting on responses, that one of the municipalities we thought was coming with us has told us they're not. So please understand that we need as much certainty before we go out to RFP as we can get. Who's in or who's not.
I agree.
Yeah.
Question then, Daniel, can we not put in the RFP then that, whatever Brandon and Pearl are getting and whatever Flowood thinks they've got to have, that should go into the RFP? I mean, otherwise, I can't really see the board and the mayor and Brandon getting anything more than, I mean, anything less than what they already got.
Well, I don't think there's no need in going there, because we know they're keeping their own contract, so there's no need for us adjusting our RFP to meet theirs, because they're not gonna change what they got.
Unless it turns
Nothing
out it's
against
the
them,
same
but, you know.
provider, unless it turns out it's the same provider.
I don't think they're gonna change the deal.
You think? What is your impression?
And I don't know that I really blame them.
I would say they'd revisit it in 2 years, but that'd be the soonest time they.
Yeah, because we're obligated for 2 years to stay with the current provider.
Well, I mean, even that could be adjusted if the same contract was with us and y'all work, but I don't think you'll do it. I mean, I think we'd be down in 2 years, we'd be.
But and remember though that the city, you know, the same thing. The city of Pearl is on a different time schedule contract wise than the city of Brandon is. So I mean, they're offset.
But I'm probably making a mountain out of a molehill. Let's move on.
Right.
Mr. President, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
This all started, and I want to drop back to history, you know, before he was chief, he was working with me, but Brian was working in Flowwood. The initial contract was initially tried to make changes about 7 years ago as a county as a whole. And through the negotiation and the request made by the city, brought forward by the fire chiefs, both paid and volunteer, the change in the contract was repeatedly requested. And that brought us to the point where the municipalities broke off because of the service. They didn't have an obligation to stay with the service that was not being provided.
Right.
That's why they broke off, because of, you know, the inability or the unwillingness
Negligent.
for the provider not to meet the requirements or the requests of both the paid and volunteer fire department. So, you know, this was been presented many times as the county as a whole and rejected. So I don't know that you could get those municipalities back, because this is the same, basically the same territory we've covered over 7 years.
It sounds like they got kind of a sweet thing going anyway.
Yeah.
They do. They do have a good deal.
So I'm just,
For now.
And
maybe in 2 years.
I think from a public safety standpoint, if you're in our position and we're providing a service that has exceeded even our expectations, then we go back to a service that we're just not sure about.
I
Well, the
agree.
citizens of Brandon are gonna say, well,
I understand you
so
completely.
We've got to maintain our current provider, and it's working really well. You know, I'm not sure what's gonna happen with the county, but I can assure you this: we're gonna do everything we can within our resources to work with the county.
Yeah. And I feel sure if we have whatever provider we go with, if there's some issue with, down the road, with a particular city, needing service, we could adjust it to, take care of Rankin County.
So just by municipality signing on our contract, say Richland, Florence, Pelahatchie, Puckett, that they're not necessarily going to be liable for paying for it.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Right.
They would be obligated to that term, and they would be obligated to signatories. They would be obligated in such a way that it would not be appropriate for them to try to create their own EMS district during the term of that contract.
Well, this is something new, so what if we get some fallback from some of them not wanting to commit to it?
Yes, sir. That could happen.
What's our alternative? I mean, what's our,
Agreements, just like we've just been talking about with Brandon, you have joint mutual aid agreements with each of the municipalities.
okay,
And that you don't trigger those unless they create their own EMS district.
gotcha,
Yeah.
all right.
Can I say something? And I think, you know, reading over everything and talking about it, it's gonna come down to how many districts we want to create as far as the timing, as far as response time. I think that's the only issue, the only big issue that I see out there from both the volunteer chiefs and the paid chiefs is gonna be response times and how that is graded. So whether it's graded on 5 districts or 2 districts, I think that's the discussion.
Well, looking at
Everything
this-
else is gonna be pretty even.
I've only gotten through BNC, and BNC's 25 minutes, which would fall in District 2 on Daniels. District 1 would be District 1, and that's 15, but he has 12. What are the other ones?
I don't know if you remember the map, there's several.
25 is 25 on D and 25 on E.
Yeah,
So-
the times and the percentages or whatever can easily be adjusted or whatever. The reason why we went with the 5 different districts is solely for reporting. So that when we can hold the whomever that is can be accountable. One thing that a lot of ambulance services will do to kind of skew the numbers is if they've got a really distant, that they are bad on their time response times, and then they catch one really close to say Florence or Richland, they can hit those and it changes up the percentages. Whereas Leesburg or Lake Harbor may still be getting, that's the problem we're in right now.
That's what created
AMR
this
created
whole
circles.
Okay.
And they can hit just outside the circle a lot easier than they can go out here.
So we're really not changing the cost here at all. We're just putting different
Well, it's gonna
grading
change-
factors
It's gonna
in.
change the cost. If we go, the more districts you have, the more area they have to cover, and the more they have to report to.
That creates
The more accountable they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
gotcha.
also it creates, the more accountable they
Yeah.
are on the reporting. In other words, you can't just
I gotcha.
exclude
Yeah.
the very rural area and concentrate on the, very populated area to make up your time.
Yeah, and that's what
You've
we've
got
run
a
into in the
performance
past.
standard that you're
Yeah.
gonna meet as you go out there.
Right.
The more districts we have, the more accountability we have, the more likely it is that they will talk to us about a subsidy. So as we consider moving forward, just keep that in mind, that there could be, depending on responders, there could be some cost associated on that side of it, that subsidy side of it.
When you increase the differences, you increase the money we have to put in.
Possibly, that's correct. Now, we don't know for sure, obviously, but we'll see what we get. But that's a likelihood. And being logical, as we look through this, I just want you guys to be prepared for what the likely outcome's going to be. The more accountability we put on them, the more likely it is that they're going to, if they need to stage an ambulance in a less populated area to meet the run times that we've got there.
We gotta
there's
pay
gonna be a
for
cost
it. Yeah, you gotta pay
associated
for it. That's right.
Well, that's what we've been running into the whole time. I mean, that's been the whole issue. What created, really, what brought us here, really, in a lot of ways, because we weren't satisfied with the service we were getting outer-lined areas. So, and then they only gonna bring a certain number of ambulances in here, look like, however they'd say that not, but that's the way it was.
What are you looking now for us to tell you?
I think today would be a meeting of minds among each of the 5 that are here, that we are prepared or as close enough to prepared on some sort of RFP that we can get out, say, within a week's time to 2 weeks' time, that we can go ahead and safely put our current provider on notice that we are going out.
I mean,
And I think we're probably close enough. I would like for you guys to give us the time to finalize as best we can the RFP and RFP, come to you guys at work session on the 3rd, and that will be our opportunity at that point to authorize publication of that RFP. Okay? Did you get timeline?
I want to ask you a question though before we get moving further. Daniel has on his about where dispatch goes through the medical center.
Well, I don't think, that's not the dispatch.
What
going
is
to
that?
The medical center. You talking about MedCom stuff?
Yeah,
That's just a
MedCom. What is
communication,
that?
that's just a communication, and Brian can probably expand more on that, but basically it's a centralized area for communication on scene. Does that make sense?
No.
The MedCom stuff?
So basically, paramedics work off 2 things: offline med control and online med control. So offline is we have common illnesses that we go to. We already have doctor's orders that this is how we're going to treat it. Protocols. This is how we're going to treat it. Online, which is where MedCom comes into account, is we've got something that is outside the box. This is not normal. So I've got to then call a doctor, speak to a live person on the phone, which is MedCom, and get orders to treat that patient.
It's specific for every call, that once you get on scene,
Yeah.
I show up and you're there, and I think, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Jay fits nowhere in any of my protocols. I got to call and get some exceptions. I
And
can
call
talk to a
them.
live guy right now, and he can, or say my protocols say one thing, but my gut's telling me I should go another way. I can call and get permission from a doctor at UMC
Yeah.
under this MedCom system. He's got a guy standing by phone, and he's going to answer as soon as I pick up and dial him.
Do we use them now?
We should.
Yes.
Okay. So we're already paying them?
Well,
I'm assuming
I
they
don't
charge
think
for
we're-
this.
They're not charged.
Really?
State funds it.
Oh, wow. Heck yeah, we using that one.
But I mean, it's there. It allows a guy to come off. If you got a standard template of what you can do, it allows him to audible through a doctor and say, "I tell you what, do something different. Change your dosage of your drugs you're giving."
All right. So before we move on, is there anything other than the districts that y'all see the differences here?
I think we need to finalize districts and
Well, and again,
consolidate the times.
Here's my only comment on the 5-district thing. Just to know is that when you go the areas that you have set up here for a private company to come into it, financially they're not going to make money on these 5 districts. All right. So for them to put their private company in here, 911 calls don't historically make money. Okay, that's not how a private service makes money. From our standpoint as a public service provider, I don't care whether the company's making money or not. I want good care to the people. But when you put these districts out there, they've got to put an ambulance in, let's just say, in District 5, Monterey, Star, Cleary, Florence, Southwest. There's no hotels. I mean, there's no hospitals there. All right, the way an ambulance company makes money is transfers from hospital to hospital. So what's their profit area? The profit only money they would make would be on 911 calls, which your collection rates are, I mean, they can be argued, but 30% in a lot of cases. So financially, for them to put an ambulance there, it's just what Craig said. They're going to come to the county and say, look, I'm going to need an extra $500,000 if you want one in District 4. If you want one in District 5, $500,000 more, which is why AMR came back to us back in, let me back up, came to the previous board and said they need a $2 million subsidy to staff these districts. That's why the districts thing is hard to do unless we want to come off some change as the county standpoint. All right, so if you limit the number of districts, it's less likely we got to come out of the larger pocket of the subsidy side of it.
But by doing
That's
that,
likely
are
they're
we
going to serve the outer lined areas too then very well.
It depends on how you write the contract. You write
Well,
it like you wrote it last time.
we need to
you're
look
right.
out for outer lined areas. Sound like we're kind of
Well, sure we do.
pushing them out
Absolutely.
there a little bit.
How are we going to be?
We're going to take care of the center.
Are we going to be able to take care of the run times out there with just 2 districts?
Well, and remember, the way our contract is set up now that you signed off on was that we can average all those times together. So that game was beat on the contract side of it.
Yeah.
If we construct it the correct way and we set our parameters the right way, then we can fix the times in these outer line areas. I'm 100% with you. Quality times need to be taken care of in those areas, but that's fixed in the contract side of things. So
I don't see how you're going to, I mean, that's what we ran to now before though, is they use that average because to average out to compensate this outside time. And then honestly, really in some of the cities, they were slow to get there too.
Well, I mean, and again, in the contract we got now, we've got no designated areas in our county, no designated ambulances in our county. The new RFP requests them to provide the detailed number of ambulances you're going to have. So obviously, call volumes help itself when you have ambulances in the county. When you don't have ambulances in the county, I mean,
But we've been back and forth on that because there were times that AMR had them. I can remember sitting I thought it was kind of funny in the parking lot at my shop. And I was like, wow. But I mean, so, I think the response time.
One thing, Jerry, that we are working on, we talked a lot about, chiefs have weighed in on it, is this issue of the clock.
Right.
Which is the nomenclature that the chiefs use.
Right.
Who gets to keep the clock, who gets to start the clock. There's been a lot of discussion about that. I think we can address that at the contract side, to Daniel's point, that the clock starts when our dispatch transfers.
Right. Not when the dispatch sends it out.
Again, there's 2 important parts to this whole deal. The RFP is taking the suggestions on what they can provide us. Then we hammer down our specifics in our contract in the negotiation process once that comes back. So it's 2 separate animals on hammering that down.
Well, then let's say we get 2 bidders on RFP. Until we know what we're going to put in the contract, we're not going to know what the costs we're going to have from either provider,
we roughly know. What they're going to come back and say is on these districts and these setups that we've got, I can do this, but in order to meet what you're asking for on your response times in your districts, it's going to cost you X number of dollars, or it's not going to cost you X number of dollars.
Okay.
And that's where you're comparing. So the rough qualifications are in these things.
Right.
The time frames that Brian's got and that we have in his own, I mean, they're splitting hairs, but I mean, you're a couple minutes here and there. All right, so I'm fine with all of the response times in both setups. I mean, you're talking a couple of minutes here and there. The question comes out is which providers can answer these RFPs for the amount of money? At the end of the
Terry, you got
question.
something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify a couple of things in respects of the equations of responses. Typically, just so you know, and it'll help you wrap your head around a little bit better because it helped me, it takes 8 calls per day to justify a truck. So typically, you may have 1.3 trucks over in one area, then the 0.7 truck may migrate across to cover 2/3 of a call ratio response that they need to make 2 trucks. So,
and also what the chief is saying is to make money on the
Yeah,
private
to make
sector
money,
side of
yeah.
things. We're not talking about the break-even numbers.
Yeah.
We're talking about the profit margin.
yeah. So you're looking, and Daniel talked about this, the reimbursement rate right now, average in the system we've run for this past year is $346 per call. So you couple that in and figure out the cost of the truck, the cost of the personnel, and how you stage those. Even though we worried about public safety and not about profit, there has to be profit to provide the public safety for the ambulance providers. So you have to massage, it's almost like a teeter-totter almost, you trying to make sure they make money and trying to provide that service at the same time. So those equations they use to put these ambulances where they need to go will be massaged. They may say, well, we're gonna put an ambulance in District 4, and then they find out we don't need but 0.5 in District 4. But District 3 has 1.5, which can offset that 0.5. You see, so that ambulance provider will be the one to go through that and get them staged where they need to be.
Yeah, and for the same side of discussion, we talked about putting out the RFPs and the timeframes and getting the information back in. Also, I was going to see if Craig will maybe address a little bit more on this, that we don't have to go out for RFPs for a service, right?
Yes, well, in this particular case, it is a service. You are not obligated to propose. You can directly, and Madison County apparently is doing this, you can directly negotiate with individual providers about providing the service to you.
So that cuts down some of the steps if you wanted to take that route.
But in our, historically, ever since I've been affiliated with the Board of Supervisors here, we have not determined to just directly negotiate. We have put it on the table as an item of good faith and fairness. This would be an explanation for it, to give everybody an opportunity to participate in it and see what response. But from the standpoint of it being a service to the county, you can directly negotiate.
So, but having said, you could put the RFPs out, not happy with it. We could change tilt at some point and say we want to go directly into a negotiation standpoint if we got into a situation.
I like the idea of the RFP because it gives us the best opportunity to see who is in this industry that's willing to talk to us.
Right.
Then we can talk to them. They've expressed an interest in us. We didn't go try to find them. So let them express an interest in us, and then let's talk to them.
Yeah, I like that. But like I said, if it doesn't go right, we can always come back, yeah.
So wrap it up, put a bow on it. I think what I would suggest, where I think we are is, let's push this notification to AMR to a point closer to the 3rd of March. And let's see where we get with pulling together all the component parts of this RFP. And if it's clear, and I think it will be,
Right.
prior to March 3, that we're gonna have an opportunity to consider a full global packaged RFP on the 3rd,
Yeah.
then we can send that notification out either on the 3rd, the minute you make your decision, or, if we're ready to go, we can get it out even before that. But my thought would be, let's do it on the 3rd.
Okay.
Right.
So I think,
With that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we need, I think.
Hey, Jeffrey,
that's what we do.
you missed all the good stuff, man.
Yeah, I heard that.
What we're going to do is we're going to do an RFP that's going to exclude Pearl and Brandon and possibly Flowood if y'all decide to go on your own. But right now, we're going to include you guys.
I wanted to make a good clarification so everybody understood. At no time has any of this
been officially taken before our board as far as us separating from the county.
Right.
I mean, we've been, over the course of the last 2 years, pretty steadfast as far as trying to stay with the county.
Yes, sir.
We do understand the instabilities. I've talked with my mayor on that issue. And basically, what we've done is, and what we're in the process of doing, myself, through his direction, is have no intentions, hopefully, of trying to separate, but just make sure that if there is a county system that we feel does not provide the needs that we need, have the opportunity and have some stuff in place not to. A recommendation I made to Brian, and I've also, told some others to pass it along, is if the county does RFP, to please at least do one both ways, so that you would know what would happen, because I don't want you to be in the middle of an RFP and be looking at a contract, us feel like it's not good, and us go before our board and ask them to allow us to do our own thing, and it puts y'all back, to square one. I would, that was my recommendation when I talked to EOC, was to make sure that the bases were covered in case we didn't, or the city of Flowood didn't feel like this was a good enough position for them, and they did feel like they need to do their own thing. So that's where that was.
Right.
But as far as us saying we're going out and doing our own EMS district, that has not been before our board. That has not been acted on in no shape, form, or fashion. We have simply looked at the service inside of the city and want to make sure that we have strategically placed things in play to make sure that we do have service if this doesn't go to where we feel like it's providing service.
So we could just include you all in this one? Then, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, we have not, my board has not even been briefed on this.
Well, whenever we finalize RFP, I'm gonna send it to you so you can get a look at it and share with your board. And
I mean, that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
there's no time we said, we are not to a position now that we said because we don't know what the county's gonna get. I mean, we have no idea. But if it's not something that we at least need to have some strategic things in place to where we can carry on. Because we do have our own needs too.
Understood. Okay. All right, man.
Thank you.
We'll put you down as a maybe.
A light pencil.
What I
We'll
don't
pencil
wanna
you
do
in case we need
in
to
no
raise.
shape, form, or fashion is say yes and then turn around at the last minute and say no. Everybody's done a lot of work. There's been a lot of effort put in this on everybody's part. And I think all of us want the same thing at the end. That's the best service that we can get for the resources that we have. So
Right.
we're going to do everything we can to continue that.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't need any action on this other than a general
The
statement
third,
that
we're gonna be ready to
We're
go.
going to pull
Right.
it together and be ready to
Okay.
go on the third.
Yeah, and this is drafting an RFP excluding the city of Brandon and Pearl.
Right.
I would like to
Okay.
add
I'd say
one more
from the
thing.
same thing, because Richland's in the same spot though,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah.
Take your ESC hat and speak for Richland.
Same, we're just like Flowood. We're gonna wait and see, what happens, because, naturally we gotta act on behalf of the best interests of our people.
But Rob was very instrumental in the discussions the other night. I think, and he expressed all his wants and needs. So
Bob,
I'm
you got
glad
something
he
you
was
want to
there.
add?
Yeah, the issue that none of us really want to address, I would like to address and work with the board on, looking at some funding issues, if we have to do some kind of subsidy. Whether it's this year, next year, down the road, we should examine some kind of funding stream to take care of this issue that's going to come up eventually.
Okay.
So, just an opportunity to work with the board, so,
Yeah, it's called the fire fund. I don't know, it's all out of the same pot of money, so if we have to pay it, we'll come up with it somewhere. I'm not sure right now if I want to be talking about how much. I'm hoping it's going to be a smaller amount rather than large.
It's all guesswork right now.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. President, the next item under my section is a discussion of our stormwater management issues. And again, I'm deferring to the board president. Tell us how we're going to move forward with this discussion here.
I kind of dropped the ball. I intended to have this up on the big screen where everybody could see it real well. But basically, I've talked a little bit about this to some of you, but we have some older subdivisions that their storm drain systems are in deplorable shape, sinkholes in all backyards and everywhere. And one happens to be in my district that is terribly in need of some work. Buster and Chris especially did a good job pulling together. They went out and went through every storm drain out there and identified where the most need was. And pretty much the whole subdivision has to be replaced. But they broke it down by what type it was, whether if it was concrete, plastic, galvanized metal. But whenever several months ago, I met with this homeowner association in this neighborhood, and it's a huge concern to them, to the point where they were ready to create their own district and pay additional tax dollars to help pay to get this done, because they recognize we don't have the funds nor the authority to go in and do all this. So I asked Buster and them, in order for us, what we were thinking about doing is creating a district. And part of creating a district, you have to come up with your cost. And also you have to come up where your revenue stream is. And so, in working with the assessor's office and everyone, we found out how many people was in it, how much assessment we were coming out of here. The cost to repair or replace what's in need in this subdivision is $3 million. That is not overly high from what I expected, but what I really expected, though, was us to be able to get some tax dollars out of this to help pay for it. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. We could put 5 meals, which is a big number, on each house. That's about $100 a year, because the average house is about $150,000. That's only going to generate $30,000 a year, and that's nowhere close to being able to service the debt on $3 million. So, in truthfulness, we were hoping that this was going to be a first stage of us many coming down the road and be able to address this problem. Like Castlewood subdivision, it's one of our older subdivisions that has a lot of need in it. But I'm not so sure if by the time we go and quadruple the size of it, we're also going to quadruple the cost. And I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where it's going to offset. One thing we do know is that once we go and do the work, we're on the hook for doing the maintenance on. So I think we probably, if we are fortunate enough to be able to get some funding to help pay for this, that we will still need to put on some type of tax to be able to take care of the maintenance of this. But this is something that's been discussed for years and years and years, and there's really not been anything done on it. But we're to the point where we can't put it off anymore. I mean, I'd invite any of you. I went to a lady's house in her backyard. She had a 5-foot culvert going the length of her backyard, and she was paying $5,000 or $7,000 to replace one section, and she needed to replace 4. And nobody can afford to pay $20,000, to get your culverts replaced in your yard. So now, that being said, we do have some things we need to be concerned with by creating a district. Is once we do that, then we're on the hook for everything. We become just like a municipality, whereas we're going to be responsible for taking care of the storm drain going between the houses, the cleaning the ditches out back. I mean, at that point, we are on the hook.
It's gonna grow.
Where, Jay, you said the $3 million did not surprise you. Where did you think you were going to pay for this?
I really expected we'd be able to get enough tax dollars out of it to service the debt.
But you were way. I mean,
that's not even close.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just that you didn't think. You thought maybe the value of the houses were more houses, or.
And to be honest, I thought it's just a little bigger area, and the cost you know, well, it's not cheap. So,
Yeah.
but considering the amount of work that's going to have to be done, I'm not surprised by $3 million.
The thing about it, that, you know, that's today's cost. You know, a year from now, that cost, I mean, you can't always base it. I mean, it's going to go up.
Well, this was going to be done with a variations of different types of replacements. Some of it, they were going to go in and seal the inside. Some of it's going to have to be replaced. And of course, the cost goes up tremendously when you go and have to build people's yards.
Yeah,
We
'cause
know
then
that
you're
when we
responsible.
start in that subdivision, we're gonna have a lot of subdivisions. I mean, that's gonna be a domino effect.
And then you're gonna have, if you have any foundation issues, they're gonna, that even not related to this, but you're gonna be blamed for foundation issues.
Well,
Well, our alternative is
You're right.
just to
I don't
do
know.
what we've been doing, is sticking our head in the sand and doing nothing.
Well, I wouldn't say sticking the head in the sand doing nothing. I
we
don't make that comment.
acknowledge, but we gotta really have a better plan than that didn't work, so.
Well, I would like to see if we could get some federal funds. I have a question though. If we
Yeah.
get federal dollars, is there a way to go in and get this replaced without having to create a district?
Actually, let's take and I'm gonna get Mr. Buster to jump in here. Let's take the Mill Creek example. That was a defined area, but it was defined at the federal project level, okay? In order for us to participate in the project, the county was required as a part of that project to acquire either an easement or a right-of-way over the areas that were gonna be improved using the federal dollars.
Okay.
Became our property. And so, unlike creating a district, which just opens it up for everything within those defined boundaries, the federal project would allow it to just be attenuated to the areas where the improvements are actually made.
Okay.
Instead of a whole district.
Yeah.
Okay? So, state law allows us to create a district, to Steve's point, which is a valid point.
Thank you.
If you create a district at the subdivision level, you have the ability to explain to everybody else, we created a special district for this area. Your area does not have a district. That's why those two things are different. But that is an untenable position to have to be in when you're explaining that to your constituencies. They want to know, well, why don't you create me a district then?
Yeah.
And so there is no quick, easy answer to this, but the federal funding project is doable. We have done it in the past, and it will work to address the question. But there is a continuing cost associated with it. That is very important to remember. You have an ongoing maintenance responsibility.
And I may be wrong. Could be Castlewoods could pay for itself. You know, I just don't know.
You don't know until you evaluate the whole place.
You ain't got, there's not enough, I mean, the value to go down, but there's more than what the subdivision, I know you're talking about. There's
Yeah.
more drainage problems over there than there is.
And it's twice, 3 times the size.
You know, back in our times, we discussed that federal funding is not available back then. I don't know if it will be available now, because if it's not a main tributary or something that's draining a large, we got an expert sitting right there, and that man right there. He worked on the soil conservation side. He can tell you that we looked at that. The only federal dollars you're going to be able to acquire in that time, and I would still agree probably today, probably less.
It's less now.
For those main tributaries, such as the Mill Creek and all that area. It's always going to be a problem. I don't care where you go in these major subdivisions, it's going to be a problem. The thing that I personally tried to accomplish, but we just didn't see eye to eye on that. But I think you can't prevent a lot of the problems because of the soil. You can't prevent them, right? You can't prevent. But what you can do, I think, is most important to save the county those headaches and those calls is you take your county engineer, you redo your regulations, and you add more structure to that to be able to, but I think most importantly, I think somebody like him has got to go inspect those developers putting those pipes in the ground.
That's exactly right.
When I got into Mill Creek and we looked at those down developments there, and we wound up having to do a foundation because of a replacement of a large, going into that main tributary back there and everything. We found the pipes not even to have a band on, not even be connected, they were just laid in the hole. And things of that nature. So I think it's what's beneficial to the citizens, and especially those who's making the largest investment, usually buying a house, if they get in those situations where there is drainage beside their house or running off their street, which is not us, I think it's beneficial to have your engineer on an inspection basis. Would save tons of money for him to go out and make sure that pipe was put in that ground right. Now that doesn't prevent it won't happen, it won't rust out or whatever, what material you use, but it also makes it makes you know and aware that it was put in proper, and that's one of the big things.
I agree 100%, and I was just sitting there thinking, Renee, would that be something that could work through your department as far as having a
Well, we need to, without a doubt, we need to update our subdivision regs, but that's dealing with the future. Because right now, we have acceptable pipe, even today, that we still use today, that's in the ground right now, that has end of life. So we need to deal with what we got right now.
What are you asking to do then?
Well, I'm just asking y'all to come up with an idea how we're gonna pay to get these fixed.
Yeah, this one.
Or either, better yet, just give me $3 million, we'll go fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, in order to form a drainage district, you did it countywide, I still think you have to have a majority of the vote in order to.
No, sir, you don't, but you can create the district, this board can create the district on a finding of a need to do so. However, the citizenry has the ability to object to the creation of the district through the filing of a petition process.
Yeah.
And I think,
Well, and like I said, this neighborhood is gonna be okay with doing it, but it's not gonna generate enough money to pay for it. So, I guess we just need to try to find some funds somewhere to help pay for it, because I know we can't afford to do every one of them. And I don't wanna ask the county to pay for this, because it wouldn't be right for us not to pay for the next one.
Right. I mean,
So,
I don't know, I'm with you. It needs to be addressed, but I don't know how you're gonna do it.
It's something that we need to be aware of and know that we need to do something sooner than later. And also, in following up, we've also, we started to do this toward the end of the term, but with the new board coming on, we put it off so that we can update our regs. Right now, acceptable material is we're still using some galvanized pipe. We need to get away from that altogether. And the sooner we can do that, the better. And I agree that we probably do need to start doing some inspections on pipe going in the ground. I know some other municipalities have done that now, and so that's for another meeting, not this one.
It's no question that's gonna have to happen. You're gonna have to have somebody there.
So I just want to put everybody on the same page. We all know we got a problem, and so if everybody put their heads toward it, if you know some way we can get some funding, I'm asking you. So other than that, that's it at this point.
Okay. Huh?
It's all right.
I said, thanks for letting me buy my 2 cents.
a lot of history behind those 2 cents there.
All right, Craig.
Okay, item G, Mr. President, is the discussion of proposed revisions to the non-disclosure agreement for GIS mapping data that's been requested by Entergy Inc. Entergy, as you know, works with Mississippi Department of, who do they work with? The Economic Development Authority, and so the Mississippi Development Authority, to categorize and to qualify specific large economic development parcels around the state. Rankin First asked for permission to use the GIS mapping data that the county purchased and has been under development and has recently gotten into a position where it can be pushed out. You guys, as part of that process, approved a non-disclosure agreement that I drafted, put together, to be used as a part of this pushing the GIS mapping data out. And I structured it in a way that I felt like was most protective of the county. It was pushed out to Entergy to get their signature on it. We asked Rankin First to make sure we got good signatures all the way around for anybody that was getting the mapping data through Rankin First. Entergy came back through their legal counsel and has asked for some revisions to the NDA.
the revisions are standard revisions, but they are revisions. There is one section that I wanted to go over with you, and it has to do with the who are in the stream of recipients from Entergy that have access to the data. And I think it's important to have that conversation. In my copy of the document, in my original of the document, I restricted it to the recipient and only those employees of the recipient who had a need for the data. They've come back and they've wanted an expansion to include agents, representatives, contractors, advisors, consultants, and affiliates. In other words, they are wanting permission to push it pretty widely through their system. That would not be typical language. The other issues, the other questions that they've raised about it are standard documentary language, lawyer language stuff that doesn't really matter. But this provision that they're asking for an expansion of here does mean something to me, and I wanted to bring it to your attention and ask for your input. They have not said we're not going to sign it unless these changes are made. I'm suggesting to you this is pretty expansive as far as who qualified recipients are under the NDA. And the further that it gets pushed away from the actual recipient, the less likely that it is that it will remain in a protected state. Now, that is, an advisor who gets this may not know that there's an NDA, may not have been informed of that, and could push it out well beyond what we intended. So I wanted you guys to be aware that this is the request. What would you have me do?
I would have them put the one agency or company that they're working with. I don't know the name of it, Larry does, and just put them on there.
Right. Yeah, they have its initials.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't know why else they would need to share it with anyone else.
It's typical what you would see. It's heavily lawyered. They just want to make sure they protect themselves. They say, well, we didn't disclose anything. That was some agent down the line.
Can you, I guess to extend what Jay said, whoever we give this to or whatever we do, we have to, I guess, create a little specific agreement to that particular person. They've got to identify the end users and acknowledge they've given copies of that non-disclosure. So in case we decide to ever litigate something, at least we've got our, or what language needs to be there to help.
I think what I would suggest that we do is go back and say we can understand agents as long as they're identified. Agents or contractors, if you will identify them and give us an opportunity to know who that is so that we can trace it back if we need to, okay? So I'm not comfortable with the expansive language. I can go back and shorten, narrow that up and put some extra parameters. I didn't want to do that without you guys giving your blessing. Does anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
All right, then what I would ask for, Jay, is just a motion to authorize legal counsel to revise the NDA to be used for GIS mapping purposes, to include some but not all of the revisions requested by Entergy.
All right, have that in form of motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morrow.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay.
Have a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Motion to approve it.
Motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Morrison. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Oster.
Thank you. The first item I have is the approval of an interlocal agreement between Mississippi State University through Mississippi State Extension and with the Board of Supervisors for a 4-year contract in interlocal. Doug Carter is here. I don't know if all of y'all have met him. He's the county extension agent, and he can explain a little bit more. But what we do now is we subsidize the employees down there. They're paid the bulk of their salaries from Mississippi State. We give them a small amount of money each year. We pay the fringes on it, and they bill us for retirement. Through this interlocal, what we will do is they will pay them everything from there, bill us once a month or once a quarter for our amount. We won't issue them a check anymore. We'll just transfer the money to state, but it'll be the same amount. You might.
Why did it change?
Really, the need for this interlocal agreement came up probably about 3 years ago. We were under a federal civil rights audit. Rankin County was chosen to be audited, and they asked for this agreement.
And we did not have one, and as far as I know, no county in Mississippi had one. So they're just trying to clean things up a little bit in response to that. And as far as the one check, they said throughout the state, if you deal with 82 counties, it's been a nightmare. People have been overpaid, underpaid. One employee had retired, and the county still kept paying her, and just things like that. And they're just trying to clean things up and make it easy for everybody.
All right. Okay.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Morrow. Second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion?
We'll get you a cheat sheet right here.
All in favor, say aye. Almost called him cross.
That's all right.
All in favor, say aye. Ayes have it. Thank you, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next item I have is approval to open a bid on one 1996 HME series pumper truck, and the serial number is stated there. We advertised this after our last meeting, according to placing notices in 3 places and posting it for 10 days. We only have received one bid on this.
If you're lucky.
And this is from Brindley Mountain, and it is for $3,500 for this vehicle.
So move, I guess.
Motion by Mr. Morrow to give this truck away.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. All in favor say aye. Ayes have it.
Thank you. The next item is acceptance of 2 2015 Pierce commercial pumpers at $316,500 each, and authority to issue payment. The reason we're doing the acceptance, this is part of one of these trucks. We will apply for the $70,000 for the rural fire truck acquisition, and I believe that will go to Monterey. And so this is part of the process that we have to do to acquire to get this money. And also at 1 o'clock at EOC, both of the, I think Brett's here, both of the vehicles will be down there, and they'll do some photos and all.
So move.
Motion approved, okay.
Motion by Mr. Morris, second by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? All right. Isn't the insurance paying for one of these? The insurance isn't paying for one of these? I thought this was a replacement of one that got wrecked.
Well, the full amount we never get back.
Well, I
but
mean,
we did
okay,
right.
I get a bit of it.
We do have some money in there
Okay,
from that.
all right.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
The next item is authority to pay Gilworth Construction for payment number 4 in the amount of $53,549.60 for the circuit court modifications, and authority to issue that check.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Last item I have is authorization for Rankin County to continue to participate in the Mid-Mississippi Strike Team as in accordance with the SMAC agreement. And Bob is here to explain any of that y'all need.
This is just an interlocal agreement that we come up with. It actually opens up more than the SMAC agreement does. It allows us to use, I would say, non-traditional agents on rescue. We use guys from the Fire Academy that have been excluded for some reason during the Homeland Security and the past administration through MEMA. We just kind of brought those guys on board, people that would specialize in other items, heavy equipment operators, that sort of thing, to put them in a specialized rescue situation where we could function. The Mid-Mississippi Strike Team basically works on a more local area where something may not be declared a disaster to the state. It's pretty much going to be a disaster to them. I give you an instance. The sheriff works well with me on the team as far as team members. We've got 10 counties that group together. Tornado that strikes, we've had 2 tornado responses down to Simpson County, where it doesn't meet the state criteria. They declare a disaster, but it's a significant impact to those guys, and we've gone down, with our equipment and helped those guys out, and that's basically what we do. There may be a county that lacks some specialized technical rescue capabilities that we will send up to do, whether it's a search and rescue, confined space, that type of technical rescue, we have the capabilities and the manpower that we can work interlocally with each of those guys and go out and, basically go out and help those guys out and, not have to charge them for that.
Basically being a good neighbor to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody working together.
It comes back to us, when we had the tornado strike us, we had, I think, 86 guys from Madison, Hines, and Copiah County came down and helped us, when the tornado hit Pearl and Brandon and Richland. So it works both ways. And like I said, we can get those guys into action a lot faster than the state can mobilize its resources. So we can have boots on the ground. Actually, when the tornado that hit us also is the one that hit Louisville. And with the I think it was maybe on day 2, where we had cleared all of our areas here, we actually sent a 96-person team with the combined counties in that district up to Louisville to help those guys out also. So, and it works, and saying that, and that may be, 2 dump trucks, that the guys need. We've done that also, just helping those out. And, anytime we move assets out of the county, always check with Ms. Laura, have to get them, the county gets the notification, so it's not like, we're self-responding. We have a chain that has to be initiated for those guys to call in help. Sometimes it's aggravating when someone's been struck, but you can't respond until it's initiated from that county official to call our county and make that official request. So there's a few guidelines we have to follow on, but the strike team's been working good. I think meeting with Mr. Smithson today, Colonel Smithson. I think MEMA has seen the way that our team operates, and I think they want to go more regionally. And this may be a moot point because this may be brought down to a more local level as we speak.
I think so.
So moved.
Yep. Second.
Motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Cross. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
I'll write my name right here.
Man, it's a long night. All right.
We do have the need for executive session for personnel.
Okay. Do I have a motion to discuss the need to go
So
into
moved.
executive personnel? Motion by Mr. Morrison,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrow. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Everyone
Aye.
else clear the room. You want to make that comment? Everyone
can.
else clear the room.
Yep.
Hey, man.
How are you, sir?
Fine, you? Shake your hand. I want to tell that time, by the way, Steve.
Good to see you. Good.
Oh, man. I sat there too long.
That's a diplomatic way of handling it. Just be down there at 1 o'clock if you want your picture. And if you don't, that's fine, right?
Well, that's how we decided to do it.
I work.
If you want to stand there and
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Please. Yeah, I mean, we need to. I mean, don't you? I mean, we got everybody. Nah, I wouldn't. That's your discretion.
We're still on because we're not going into.
Thanks.
Yep.
Where was that last Friday?
All right, ready to start?
Discuss personnel. Motion by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Marr to go in an executive session to discuss personnel. All in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it.
I'll answer. I'll answer.
Hey, Slade, I turned to you. Slade just wants to come out of my mouth.
Let it go. I'll vote for Slay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to get you, buddy. Oh, she's not even in here. Oh. You think he'll let me take him to dinner? Janice, we're waiting on you, darling.
I went and I'm just gonna do it right now. You got your copies.
No, we waiting on you to cut off the machine.
Oh, sorry. There's so many people in front earlier.
I got plenty.